Tom Fitton, how you doing, sir?
Hey, good to be with you, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
So we're supposed to believe that Nina Jankowicz is eminently qualified and politically neutral, and this board won't mission creep into any sort of surveillance or crackdowns on free speech. Does anybody, I don't even think Mayorkas really believes that.
No, it sounds like he's making it up as he goes along, but he seemed to confirm that they would be collecting information on misinformation and sending it to operators, which I don't know how you interpret that. I interpret that to be big tech platforms or government officials, similarly problematic. To do what? What is the purpose of collecting it if not to stop it? And Jen Psaki suggests that that's what they wanted to do, to stop this misinformation from spreading, and that's censorship. Now, look, it's a government position, so the qualification, that's a kind of elastic phrase when it comes to government. Pretty much everyone's qualified to run the Ministry of Truth. But the question is, do you want a Ministry of Truth in the sense that a government agency charged with censoring information to Americans, in the least, as is being described? And when he talks about Russia disinformation, that should set off alarm bells among any sensible groups of individuals who understand that the left considers Russian disinformation to be anything that's critical of the Democrats or their agenda. Trump winning in 2016, attacking Hillary Clinton, Russia disinformation. Russia disinformation. The Biden laptop, Russia disinformation. Questions about biolabs in Ukraine and U.S. funding for biolabs in Ukraine. Russia disinformation is information that Americans are using to criticize our government. So questions about COVID, questions about election integrity, that's potentially Russian disinformation. This very same agency just labeled it that and suggested people who are pushing this are a national security threat. This is about as dangerous a government program as I've heard of in my adult life.
Nina Jankowicz said she was quoted as saying that the Hunter Biden laptop story was a Trump campaign product. That's an absolute lie. She has made some of these there's nothing illegal or disqualifying about making stupid TikTok videos. Okay. It's a generational thing. But when she's literally out there, pounding on people like Rudy Giuliani and pounding on other Republicans and pounding on conservatives, and Mayorkas says she's politically neutral. She's clearly not.
Well, who else would the Biden administration pick than someone who shares those views? I mean, that's been the position of the Democratic Party and the Biden administration and the left-wing media. So there's nothing surprising about any of these views. They fall into line with elected officials and their allies in the left media on virtually every public policy issue. So she's being critiqued, rightly so, because many people, when that's exposed to them directly, react negatively against it. But if it's not going to be her, it's going to be someone else who is a leftist, who doesn't like our First Amendment and wants to suppress their political opposition, namely anyone who disagrees with the government on certain key policy issues like COVID and election integrity, or Biden generally in terms of his leftist agenda.
What's kind of funny is that for a bunch of people that believe in the rule of law, so far I haven't read. This is not is this a position that has to go through a Senate confirmation? Because I remember one of the biggest issues with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that was proposed and created by Elizabeth Warren is that they went to great lengths to circumvent Congress's oversight of what they were doing, almost like establishing a new Federal Reserve. But I have not seen anything about confirmation hearings.
Well, yeah, this isn't a confirmation.
Exactly.
This isn't a position that's subject to Senate confirmation, and the agency is going to say it's just a working group within the agency, the sort of thing that they have flexibility to implement with the current funding structure as it's set up. So that raises the question, is the Congress going to do anything to stop this? And, I tweeted out the other day, I don't know if you saw it, I said, if you think the Ministry of Truth is bad, wait till you hear Republican leaders telling you why they have to vote to keep on funding it. Because that's what's going to happen here. I mean, this is a big test. Are they going to fund it? Are they going to do anything to stop it? Is this important to them in terms of protecting our First Amendment rights? And so this is going to be another test, and you know how I guess they'll pass, whether they'll pass or fail.
I put up on Twitter, "Dear Democrats, in 3 short years, either President Trump or President DeSantis will be nominating a new head for the Disinformation Governance Board. You sure you want that?"
Or even worse, they'll be trying to dismantle it, and a court will come in and say they're not allowed to.
Yeah. I like your tweet here. It says, "New Biden administration official confirmed today that the, quote, Ministry of Truth will alert operators, social media platforms to misinformation that threatens, quote, national security." I don't know if they're going to be informing them so much or threatening them, right?
Well, we've already seen this happen. We've had the administration, the White House, call in big tech platform heads to the White House earlier this year to tell them that we needed more censorship. We know separately from Judicial Watch's litigation or FOIA's, in California, for instance, they were getting Twitter to take down tweets and getting YouTube to take down videos that California leftists didn't like on election integrity debates. So, this is, I've been through this before personally, and we've seen it directly. And one of the big secrets that isn't really a big secret is that the censorship that you're facing and others are facing online is the result not only of just private action, but a collusion with the government. And if Elon Musk is doing his job when he runs Twitter, he's going to try to expose that, or at least I hope he would.
Well, I would like to ask, if I could play senator for 5 minutes and ask Nina Jankowicz a question, I'd say, okay, so what would this board do if a president says, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your plan, you can keep your plan? That was disinformation, and it came from government. It seems like the government will patrol everybody else's air fingers, quote, disinformation, and none of its own.
Well, right. And obviously we've had disinformation about disinformation where you've had lies being told about the Russia origin of the Hunter Biden's laptop, when in fact it was Biden's corruption that was behind the origin of Hunter Biden's laptop in terms of the reason for the press interest there. Look, I mean, we face a dire threat to our First Amendment. It's coming at us from all fronts. I mean, you see the reaction to Elon Musk daring to want to promote more free speech, and we still don't know what he wants to do, yet he's being called a Nazi online and on television for wanting to bring more free speech to Twitter. These are dangerous times for our republic, Andrew.
And this is the one thing. Tell me if you see it the way I see it. I see a group of people. We had the White House Correspondents Association dinner this past weekend. All of the the muckety mucks were there, and only the staff were wearing masks, right? These people seem to want to have a qualified, credentialed class. They see themselves as the intelligentsia. They see it as necessary that they wield ultimate influence. They don't want any of this confusing crap coming from, little people starting up accounts on Twitter or Facebook or Gab or Getter or wherever it is. They don't like these messy organizations like Judicial Watch that file FOIA requests to get to the information that they don't think people ought to be seeing in the first place. But what if you're a virologist and you have information based on your experience and your knowledge that contradicts what Dr. Fauci is saying? Should there be some governing board leaning on Twitter saying, don't let other virologists put up second opinions?
Well, I mean, that's what's happening now. I mean, you have Facebook and all these other entities using fact checkers as a cutout, saying that information should be suppressed because it disagrees with information put out by government agencies such as the CDC and even worse, the World Health Organization, which is accountable to virtually no one given its international corrupt UN status type of operation. So it's already happening. Everything you're worried about, Andrew, it's already happening.
Tom, what happened to I don't want to call them, what happened to the progressives that shared that foundational principle with us? That they didn't have to like us, we didn't have to like them, but we agreed to the rules of free speech. And that was, we don't want the government blocking media. We believe in freedom of the press, freedom of speech, the right to assemble peaceably, to petition the. Where did they go? I do see some liberals. I'm no fan of Bill Maher. I don't even like really invoking him, but it's just a clear example. You have even Elon Musk tweeted out the other day that he used to support Obama. This is not about, right. There are people on the left who are saying the far left has gotten so far left that the, I guess, standard left doesn't recognize it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, this is to me you've had liberalism that had some far left elements behind it, but as you point out, there was at least a place where we could discuss issues and we could disagree. But in recent years, we've had a rising communist movement, a rising Marxist movement that's totalitarian in nature, that opposes the First Amendment, and all sorts of Republican virtues and liberties that we take for granted here in the United States. They believe that it should be overturned. And the First Amendment is they see as a vehicle of oppression and should be destroyed. So, I mean, it's no coincidence that this Nina Jankowicz also applies this critical race theory approach to speech, that free speech is violence against minorities. These are radical radicals trying to repackage their Marxism to justify totalitarian and state oppression.
Yeah, and I noticed something else, that if conservatives, I guess you and me represent kind of a stereotype, right? Straight white males, right? And if straight white males are doing something, then it's bad. And other people should stop doing it lest they be like straight white males. And I've seen this with Amber Ruffin and Cloudy Hostin. I don't call her Sunny, and others, Joy Reid, that you have these women on the left that are saying, well, free speech is going to let white males say whatever they want. So if you're not a white male, do you want to give up your free speech lest you be, cast into a category with me? Free speech is for everyone. It means Tom Fitton, Andrew Wilkow could be on Twitter. It means everybody could be on these social media platforms. Just the way we look at free speech in music and lyrics. That's not hip hop versus country, right? Country musicians make their lyrics. Hip hop musicians make their hip hop artists make their musicians. But you get the point that this is not about one group versus another. This is about all of us.
Well, but you're talking about the totalitarians who want to actually leverage one group against the other and are happy to engage in race-based attacks, sexist attacks. Look, I criticized the Ministry of Truth on a tweet the other day. Elon Musk responded approvingly. And the Washington Post, within a few hours, called me one of the internet's most strident and far-right figures. This is what they do. I mean, if you oppose their agenda, no matter how extreme, you're the worst person in the world. And one of the ways they'll try to make you the worst person in the world is by attacking you based on your race and sex.
Yeah, and that's supposed to be unacceptable, right? That's supposed to be considered racist. This nonsense that only white people could be racist or white men could be racist is ridiculous. And isn't it kind of funny they keep talking about corporate media power, yet Jeff Bezos was like, you know what, I'm a billionaire. I'm just going to buy the Washington Post. But when Elon Musk does it, it's somehow awful. Well,
the corporations, the major legacy media corporations in our country are owned by a very narrow subset of Americans. Their shareholders, to the degree they're public, comprise retirees and other people with investments, but they're controlled by a narrow subset. And it's, Twitter, in terms of the demographic, is going to be no different than any other big tech platform or media platform, which also competes against Twitter. And now the only difference is that Elon Musk has an avowed commitment to free speech, and these other legacy platforms like Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and Google and many of the major media companies now are opposed to free speech, either online or generally, for their political opponents or their perceived political opponents, because it changes from day to day.
Yeah.
J.K. Rowling was, the toast of the town for years. Now she's the enemy because she opposes transgender extremism. So, their political opponents, everyone thinks, well, that's just the crazy conservatives like Andrew and Tom Fitton. Oh, no, my friend, it will be you soon, believe you me. And I'm talking to anyone who thinks they are independent of these political parties. It's because of that they will target you.
Last point, and we had it in one of those clips from CNN where the anchor, I don't think it was Alice's camera, I don't know which one it was, to their credit, asked, would you be in favor of creating this under President Trump? And Alejandro Mayorkas, didn't answer the question. I would like to ask our friends on the other side, how would you feel if Donald Trump had proposed something so ominous, and dystopian sounding of this Disinformation Governance Board? You guys would not be for it at all.
Yeah, I mean, of course, wouldn't be for it. But look, they don't believe the standard is not a double standard. It's one standard. We do what we want, and you can't do it. You just can't do it, and that's consistent. And so they've come up with this anti-constitutional board that's an anathema to any free society, and they're pretending they can do it, and you can bet, as you point out, if it's still around in the Trump administration, I fear it will be, or whatever subsequent Republican administration comes around, and I'm assuming there will be one, either next term or the term after that, they'll say, well, you have to either you can't run it, or if you want to take it apart, you got to have it run the way we want it to be run.
Yeah, and I'm going to get into this piece from Michael Hiltzik after the break here about how they're calling it free speech absolutism, and it's going to lead to harassment and racism. No, it's pretty basic. If you don't like what someone's saying on Twitter, just block their account and don't read it. It's like George Carlin's famous analogy about a radio. There's two buttons on the radio, one to change the channel, one to turn it off. Nobody's going to make you read anything you don't want to read. It's the idea that some governing board's not going to let you read what you want to read. It's like I always say, there's a difference between a progressive and a conservative vegetarian. A conservative vegetarian doesn't eat meat. A progressive vegetarian doesn't want you to eat meat. And that's the difference. All right, I got to leave it there. Yeah, good.
And that's a big point, Andrew. It's not just because you're afraid to post something or that something you post is deleted. The censorship affects all of your listeners because information they otherwise would be able to see is not being presented to them as a result of the big tech censorship we're talking about. You're being victimized. Whether or not it's because your material is being deleted, it's because your material is being vetted and censored and suppressed that you have a right to see as a God-fearing American.
Absolutely. JudicialWatch.org is the website, judicialwatch.org. Tom Fitton, you're always welcome on the program. Come back soon.
Thank you, Andrew.